Eye-Opener 1. If crypto is illegitimate because it's digital, what is the dollar? What are stocks? What about all data? Let's consider each one. For the most part, the US dollar is completely digital. How many physical bills do you carry in your wallet or purse? How many physical dollars does anyone carry on them nowadays? It's a fact that there is not enough physical currency, whether it be coins or paper bills, to actually cover all of the digital currency designated as the US dollar in the world. In other words, America has distributed a lot more dollars digitally than exist in the real world. So, does that mean that the dollar has no intrinsic value? After all, the dollar does not create anything. The dollar does not build anything. The dollar is not a company. The dollar does not represent a tangible product. The dollar is simply an IOU issued by the government. This means that one must have faith in the issuing government to be willing to accept that I owe you. And as of lately, the promise that the dollar is supposed to represent does not seem to be something that other countries wish to trust. How could it be trusted when its value for its own people has diminished greatly through inflation and inequitable distribution to that minority known as the wealthy? This is why other countries have chosen not to accept the debt of America in the form of dollars as much as they have in the past. Instead, countries are choosing to call in those debts they once held in much higher regard. America's standing as an economic powerhouse is fading because that standing has been based on the strength of the military of the United States of America. And while this may have worked in the past, the perception of the might of America's military has waned as the United States has failed to emerge victorious in any of its military interactions or adventures for decades. Yet people still trust that the dollar has intrinsic value, even though most dollars only exist in the digital realm. Now, let's move on to stocks. How many of you out there physically hold paper shares of those companies in which you invest? Though the company you are investing in may produce a very good product, what do you have as evidence that you truly own a share of a publicly traded company or corporation? If you are on one of the major trading platforms, say Charles Schwab or E-Trade or Robinhood, what do you get as proof of your ownership of a portion of any company in which you invest? I would hazard a guess and say that all you get is an image on your phone or computer monitor that says you bought this mini shares of said company. Of course, there is some digital ledger somewhere that indicates that you did indeed invest in that company and to what degree you invested in that company. But you don't know where that is, first off. And consider this. You put in your order to purchase a certain amount of shares for any given company. The platform upon which you place your order receives your order, and the orders of everyone else who's buying into or investing into any particular company or corporation. Well, I don't know how it works for other platforms. I do know that there was a scandal pointed out pertaining to Robinhood, where the people running their trading platform were front-running big orders that had come in on any particular company. In other words, if those operating the Robinhood trading platform saw that there was a substantial number of buys or sales coming in for a particular company, they would buy or sell accordingly before those orders were sent in for their customers. This to me sounds like insider trading, where you see that a bunch of people are going to buy into a particular stock, so you buy it before everybody else does at the lower price, making it much more profitable for you. I mean, consider this. Traders were trying to get their offices located closer to the stock exchanges because the data for their trades could be transmitted micro or nanoseconds faster than if they were trading from much greater distances. Which means that if their offices were 1,000 miles away, it took a lot longer, relatively speaking, for their trades to go in than it would for someone whose office was only 10 miles away. So consider you're trying to put in an order on your phone. It comes into the offices at Robinhood. They see that not only you, but 1 million other people are putting in orders for a particular company. They then choose to put in their own orders for that same company before they put in everyone else's order. I know I'm being redundant in reiterating what I just said, but it doesn't feel like anyone is listening, because this scandal came out years ago about Robinhood. But I don't remember any follow-up stories about anyone being held accountable or going to jail for what I consider insider trading. It's the same way that Congress has been allowed to do insider trading for years, while anybody else, except those at Robinhood, would go to jail for such practices. And though there are many examples to which you can compare the intrinsic value of cryptocurrencies, let's just look at one more. Let's look at data or information. I would imagine that most people don't consider their data as having intrinsic value, or at least this was the case a few years or decades ago. This would have to be true given that everyone so freely gave away their data or information. As the saying goes, if there does not seem to be a product that you are buying or that you are getting something for free, then you are the product. Just consider the number of political emails and texts you get on a daily basis. You gave them your email, you gave them your phone number, and now they email you and call you or text you all the time. The they of which I am speaking may have collected that information directly from you, or they may have bought it from a third party to whom you gave that information. And now you get the scam likely calls daily. Your information is sold time and time again to those who believe they can sell some product or service to you. If you don't believe this, consider the number of giant data centers that are being built around the country. Why would any company invest in billion-dollar data centers around the country unless there was some profit in it for them? I mean, it's $1 billion. So yes, your data and your information is valuable. But that is something that most would have never considered to have intrinsic value to anyone other than oneself in the past. If people realized the value of their data and information, they would not have given it away freely for years. They would have instead sold it themselves and profited themselves on their data and information, as opposed to what has happened. So, when hearing that cryptocurrencies lack any intrinsic value, consider the examples I've provided above as other things that seem to lack intrinsic value, but instead actually have an immense amount of value. Those things mentioned in this post are either all digital or mostly digital, as is the case of the US dollar, but the authorities are willing to assess them as having intrinsic value. What is the difference between those digital entities and that digital entity known as cryptocurrency?